Hello, everybody. Hello, Dallas. How are you?
Hey, good, Yaman. How are you?
I'm good. What's new with you?
All good. Just you know, following the news on the follow up of the interview. I think the tender's changed a little bit. People are realizing that the glitch in the beginning didn't really make out the theme for the whole interview, and I think people are actually taking some good stuff from it. So
Good. Uzi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Grok 2 dropped last night. I was shocked. Been playing
Yeah,
around with that.
we'll talk about it. XAI, how are you?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Good. About Tesla, how's it going?
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. What's the latest on FSD?
Nothing new, no new waves. So I guess we're waiting for a new version that will incorporate some promised features, including the hardware 3 support and Cybertruck support. According to some spy photos, it's still being tested actively at but hopefully it will come out
So this weekend is coming out, hopefully, right?
in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, okay.
One thing I wanted to mention, I posted a graph showing the distribution of the different versions of hardware. So that's interesting to see. So about 80%, 79% based on the Tesla Phi representation. It's not exactly the representative of the entire fleet, but it's close enough. So 80% cars have a hardware 3. So
okay.
the big majority are still on hardware 3 and are not eligible for the latest FSD.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people who are mad about it and they're complaining. And, they're not the only ones. I was listening to an industry publication earlier today, and Zeekr, for example, in China, they launched apparently 3 new versions of their 001 sedan in the last 12 months of the same sedan. And each version has different batteries, motors, electrical architecture, and intelligent driving hardware. So, and this again in China maddened their customers. So Tesla isn't the only company that's going through this. I think people just have unreasonable expectations about these things. And they want their car to be updated over the air, even for like hardware updates. I guess it's weird, but we'll see. Uzi, so you've been playing around with. By the way, about Tesla, we have Justin on YouTube who says, "Not sure if this is breaking news, but my Canadian buddy just had his Cybertruck reservation coming." So I think now Foundation series Cybertrucks are orders are available for everybody across North America, US and Canada. Is that correct?
Yes, that has been announced a few days ago, I believe. So starting this month, Canada is getting the Foundation series.
Okay, good. Uzi, how are you? How is Grok 2 doing for you?
It's going well. Oh, I also wanted to mention, I don't know if we talked about it last week because I was away, but the Biden admin plans to ban Chinese L3 autonomous driving software and above. So, somewhat related to China. It's entirely related. But Grok, it's fun. It's kind of like a little worse than DALL-E in my opinion, but it's the rate of which it produces images is impressive. And it doesn't give you I can't do that. Sometimes it's not accurate. It doesn't know everyone's face, but if it's a very famous person, it's like 2 marks off. Like Elon isn't perfect, Jeff Bezos isn't perfect, but it's fun. Just make content with it, code with it.
Which AI do you use usually?
I use Grok a lot for real-time news, and then Copilot for work. It's really the main 2 I use.
Have you ever tried Gemini?
No, not really.
Yeah. Okay. I have Gemini, and I've tried to generate some thumbnails for these videos and live streams, but they don't do a great job with pictures over there. So I wonder if Grok is going to do better. And when Omar comes in, we can ask him about some of the posts that Grok XAI shared about Grok's performance. Uzi?
Yeah, I think the one thing Grok's missing that would help with that is like I know in Copilot, for example, you can put an image in and then work off that template. Grok doesn't have that capability yet. So once you can start uploading images to X and then it produces something off of that, that will also make the vision or the outcome of the vision a little bit better, in my opinion.
Okay. Brian?
Yeah, I just ordered mine from Canada. There was a luxury tax that they had originally on it, like it was $6,800. So I was waiting to see that get cleared up. But then when they took that off, I just ordered mine 2 days ago. It says October to November delivery.
Okay, so you ordered the Cybertruck in Canada and it says October to November delivery.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it looks like this year is going to be purely foundation deliveries, and then early next year, now foundation will start. That's my base case. Dallas?
Yeah, playing around with Grok too. I mean, I don't use a whole lot of AI LLMs, but for photo generation, these seem the most human looking. Maybe I'm biased here, but the examples I've seen posted truly look the most photorealistic and don't really struggle with uncanny valley-ish feel. I don't know if that's just me, but
I think Midjourney does a great job with pictures as well, photorealism. Uzi, have you ever tried Midjourney?
No, I've not, but I've seen a ton of their images, and I think it's Midjourney, then Dolly, then maybe Grok. I'm going to post a photo that popped off yesterday. It's a little disturbing.
Yeah, they're all getting really good. I mean, there's a number of them outside of ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok. There are dozens of LLMs now, and they're all great for at least one thing. So it's interesting to see all of them kind of improve so fast. But Hustletown, what do you use?
Midjourney mainly. I run a D&D game, basically Star Wars 5e, and I use the images and the stories from Midjourney and ChatGPT mainly.
Okay. I mean, these topics we usually go into on my AI space on Monday nights. So if anybody is interested in that topic, Monday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central is when we start the AI space, AI amateurs space. I want to grow that space a little bit and focus on kind of build this group effort around how to best use which AI for what purpose, share best practices, get more efficient using AI. All right, Uzi?
I really like that space. It attracts a different crowd that's really interested in AI, obviously. And as you do a good job with hosting, we get to hear different opinions, and the ones that are kind of wonky, you do cut them out. So it works well. Just people have to show up, and I think they have been since the first one.
Okay, good. Let's start. So I posted a question at the top, Uzi. I posed this question this morning for my followers. We have a few dozen replies already, some very thoughtful ones in there. What were your response to this question? If you're the CEO, what's the first thing you do to accelerate FSD adoption?
Adoption is different than the technology itself, I'd say, right? So that's changing
Right.
consumer behavior.
Right, exactly. So take the pace of technology advancement as a given. So let's say Ashok is working on that. Okay. What would you do for people to start using it on their daily drives, for more miles, or for more people to try it, subscribe to it, purchase it?
I think they need examples of success. We look at the elevator, and it was a manually operated technology for I don't know how long, but now it's commonplace. You press the button and you go where you want to go. It's exactly the same thing. One example of that could be, you see it in China, and that engages a competitive spirit. So different markets having FSD might make it more desirable. But I really think the controversial one's advertising and humanizing FSD and putting a face on the ads, whereas the ads before, when they started, were just the car and the technology. And that doesn't really sell when some people have anxiety with being in a car with their mom's driving. So if you have FSD, and it's humanized in a way where you're comfortable with the technology driving you, I think that will drive it up.
Grant?
Hey, just joined. Not sure exactly what we're talking about, but I had responded to a post earlier saying I do think television advertising would be good for Tesla if they were looking to expand the usage of FSD. I think it's good to try to put yourself in the position of a normal American consumer who is not as actively involved in following comings and goings at Tesla as we are. I think for someone who's only seen a couple headlines over the last few years, they probably heard a while ago that Tesla was doing autonomy stuff and maybe, have seen some headlines since. But I think that the actual capabilities are probably not well understood by the broader American public. So I think TV commercials would make sense just to say, like, hey, here's where it's at. It's an interesting product. It can save you some strain or whatever if you're not wanting to steer the wheel, etc. I think a lot of people would be kind of wowed by the idea you can just sit there and have the car pilot you around.
Dallas, what's your answer to the question at the top? If you're the CEO, what's the first thing you do to accelerate adoption, FSD adoption, and assume the pace of technology innovation is given? So Ashok is working on that. The AI team is working on that. You're responsible for taking what's given and increasing adoption rate.
Yeah, I think there's two avenues, right? So you first and foremost, I think you attack your existing customer base or go after your existing customer base. And there's such a, I say low because it is low take rate right now on FSD amongst existing Tesla customers that I think you do small things like make pop-ups in the ad or notifications built into the Tesla app where whenever there's a new version that they're very confident in, they could push another trial. The trial notification was great, but it was really just one pop-up on the screen. And I think a lot of people dismissed that, didn't even notice it. Something more noticeable, like someone just mentioned a video to kind of personify or humanize the FSD experience. I think that's awesome. I think you implement a video that is a part of that notification on the home screen of the Tesla that when you get in, makes it a little more obvious that there's a free trial going on. Because it was kind of hard to understand. I know it was just a little splash page that came up. So in the app, they could do that as well.
Grant?
Yeah, I think trials for existing customers definitely make sense. I mean, I don't, I was not a subject of those push notifications. I don't know how many there were or how noticeable it was. I think they might not be able to do a ton with additional trials, but would agree trials are definitely the way to go with the existing base. I would highlight that with the TV commercials, I think you could probably help, or you could probably get the benefit of having some people say, wow, that's so cool. Tesla has this, other people don't. I think that what I'm trying to say is the difference between additional marketing into the existing base versus additional marketing into the broader public is that you'd get a benefit in terms of demand for the vehicles if you went to the public.
Omar, what do you think? Sorry, about Tesla?
I may differ a little bit on this from others, but I don't think at this point we need to, Tesla needs to make an effort to increase the adoption or take rate or anything at this point. I think the main focus should remain on improving the FSD, making it as perfect as possible, as quickly as possible, and then.
But aren't they tied to each other about Tesla? Because the more people who use it, the more miles, the more disengagement data, the more intervention data Tesla collects.
I don't think so. I mean, they can if they need more testers, beta testers, formerly known as. I think they can always do like a free trial or bring some more people.
Okay,
I don't think
sorry.
it matters.
Did you say more disengagement, more miles wouldn't accelerate pace of development? Is that what you're claiming?
What I think they need, if they don't have enough miles, or if they don't have enough disengagements, they can always add,
Okay, so
free trials and such.
okay, so that's the point. So you agree then with others that free trials is the way to go. But I was a little unclear when you started speaking because I think you kind of implied that Tesla is not limited by disengaging data.
I don't know if they are or not. They may be looking for specific edge cases, in which case they don't need mass adoption. They just need to focus on specific areas or specific scenarios, and they may approach it in a different way, advertise it or push it in certain areas.
If millions of people were using the software today, wouldn't Tesla be able to uncover the unknown unknowns at a faster pace?
I don't know. It would be too much noise.
Omar, what do you think?
For how to increase adoption?
Well, I think about Tesla, I'm not exactly sure what he's saying 100%, to be honest with you, but I think he's saying that Tesla does not need to increase adoption rate of FSD.
Well, if you listen to the team, what they actually said is the limiting factor is now interventions. So it's completely normal now for the system to drive for hours without interventions. This doesn't mean that there aren't any interventions. It just may take on average, let's say 3 or 4 hours to discover one. So for me as an FSD tester, I can go out there and run a video for 2 hours, but I still might not find that intervention. Now imagine as it goes to 8 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, 7 days, 14 days, 3 months. It's just going to get more and more impossible. The only solution to this is to scale up the number of users really fast so that you can discover the problems faster. So I agree, it is critical to increase the number of users to make the software continue to improve.
And how would you go about doing that?
I'm glad you asked. I have a very simple strategy. Number one, free trials every new version for 2 weeks. Number two, everybody gets one drive with FSD free every day. And number three, I don't think you need really like TV advertising. I don't think the customers you're looking for are on TV watching like Viagra ads on CNN. They typically use streaming services that don't have any ads, and they're not really seeing those. What I would do instead is add FSD to the referral program. So every time you refer somebody to subscribe to FSD and they stay subscribed for 1 month, you get 1 month of FSD free.
That's very good. Speaking of Viagra ads, this episode is sponsored by Joa Life. You can use the code TSLA Live for 5% off your purchases. The link is at the top of your screens. This episode is also being live streamed simultaneously on YouTube. The live chat is again for members only. YouTube members get a free 1 week advanced look into one-on-one interviews as well, and that link is also at the top of your screens.
Yeah, I just got a message from Joa the other day. They said we're sending you our new game controllers that we got. So I already have, I think, one of these. So they sent me two more. This is their all new game controller. And it's actually really handy because you've got all these games on your Tesla. They're great for playing while you're supercharging or doing whatever. And I always like to, now that they have the beach buggy leaderboards, anytime I go to a super charger, I'm trying to get on the leaderboard. And it's a little bit easier with a controller rather than using your steering wheel. So grab some of these Joa controllers. The things that I really like about them compared to an Xbox or PlayStation controller is they're much more compact. So I would keep an Xbox controller in my Tesla, but it's kind of bulky, obviously, when it's taking up space in your center console. These are very compact, so you can probably put two of these in your center console and be ready for a two-player game in less space than it takes to have one Xbox or PlayStation controller.
Thank you, Omar. Yeah, I saw the video they posted about their controllers. That looked really cool. The link to buy those for your kids or for yourself is at the top of your screens. Also, tomorrow at noon Eastern, so 1 hour before this space, I'm going to hold a sponsors subscribers only space. And at this point, we have a couple of sponsors, and we're going to discuss what I can do to make sure that their subscriptions, sponsorship of the space succeeds. We're going to talk about campaigns, expectations, key performance indicators, and also best practices, and hopefully build that sponsorship business. So that link is also at the top of your screens. If you want to sponsor TSLA Live, reply to that and I will reach out to you and we can discuss how to go about it. All right, Uzi?
I think in the long term, I know the question precludes technology, but the long-term vision is the FSD will become an entertainment platform. And so just like Joe Life's controllers and Omar mentioning charging at stations, I don't know if it's building hype exactly on today or what exactly the path is, but building the stepping stones on the path to L5, where people are aware this will become not a platform to enjoy yourself in a way that's not just driving.
Yeah, and that's actually where a lot of the value is. So, we have already got Netflix built in. We've already got games built in. You can actually play the games and watch the Netflix or HBO or Disney Plus or whatever from the back seat. So once they enable, for example, turning off the cabin camera on highway traffic jams, when they say, okay, we're feeling pretty good about highway traffic jams, we'll take liability for that. You don't have to pay attention. You can watch videos, do whatever. Then they'll just enable Netflix and the video games on the front screen while you're in a traffic jam on the highway. And you'll be able to throw on some Netflix, do whatever. Increasingly, more and more of the revenue generated from FSD is actually going to come from these entertainment options, buying food, buying a video game, watching some movie, rather than the FSD purchase price itself.
Makes sense. And Drew Soul on YouTube live chat says, I think Tesla is trying to find a balance between collecting enough data to improve while not advertising to the masses for something that is not feature complete. Once it's feature complete, I think it'd be wise to advertise, showcasing the human element and benefits, safety, etc. About Tesla, and then Grant.
Yes, I agree with that. And just to clarify my position, so my answer to your question was perfected. So I think we will definitely need all the advertisement, referral and everything. However, it's a little bit premature at this point. We need to finish. There are certain areas where FSD currently fails, and we know them. They need to be fixed first. Like, school zones are not handled. The blinking lights are not handled. The speed is not controlled correctly. Many other areas that are not finished. And if you try to advertise to everyone right now, they will try and they may not like it and it may have a negative effect. So I think they need to fix the known problems first. And then once it will be almost perfect, once all known cases will be solved, now we will be looking for unknown cases, for unknown unknowns, and that's when mass adoption will be necessary at that point, just so that we can catch them. But until the known problems are fixed, I think it's a little premature.
Okay, thank you, Grant.
Yeah, I take about Tesla's point. I think that's fair. I mean, if these were actually robotaxis, I don't think there would be a discussion around how to get people to pay for it. I think the value would be obvious and it would be a lot easier. So fixing it or getting it to robotaxi L4 status has obviously been the name of the game for a while now. Second question is just in terms of the data collection, I feel like I always hear different answers in terms of whether or not the constraint is data or compute. They're at 1.6 I don't know, Omar, I'm looking at your tracker. It's close to 1.7 billion miles on FSD now. Is it going to take like 10x more for this to become a robotaxi? It seems like a lot of miles. Like, how many more miles do we need? I'm surprised that we're still saying, oh, it's not enough miles.
I mean, it's not really about just adding miles to it. Elon has said for a number of years that he thinks probably about 6 billion miles is what they need, and that seems to be tracking pretty well. But I mean, the thing is, like I said, already able to do drives for hours without issues in many cases. Obviously, there are a lot of known issues, but the versions that they have internally have already fixed a number of those issues. So I think performance is definitely something you want to continue to work on. Adding more miles definitely helps. But at the same time, I think this is really at a point now for many users, maybe not in all markets, but for many users, especially in the largest markets, places like Boston, Chicago, LA, San Francisco. I think this is a serious value add today. I mean, just being able to do hands-free driving for hours on the highway. Sure, it's not perfect, but it's damn better than anything else anyone's ever seen. And people use cruise control on the highway. They find it has some value. They even use some of these other lane keeping assists that are far less advanced. I don't think it's really the case that there's no value. If there was no value, then Mobileye wouldn't be a company. Obviously, robotaxi is much more value, but I think with hands free in most of their major markets, they have something where it's time to start pushing now.
Grant, and then Joseph.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people would pay for the product as it exists today. I personally wouldn't, but I guess we can just agree to disagree on that front. On the 6 billion miles, I Googled it because I wasn't familiar with that, but it says that was around worldwide regulatory approval for the product, not like it can do the L4 stuff. Do you know if there's a different estimate for L4 working in parts of the US or the entire US? Because I could see worldwide regulatory approval requiring like, Japan wants 1 million miles on their roads with their street signs, all of that stuff before they feel comfortable signing off. Like, is that something that anyone's double clicked into? Because I mean, I'm curious. Like, at this pace, like what, Omar, with the current level of miles coming, when do we hit 6 billion? Like, do you have a sense? Is that a few years out?
Um, it's hard to say for sure. It depends on the rate of adoption, but it's not miles exactly. Like if you went and drove 6 billion miles around a track, that doesn't magically make you autonomous. They
Understand.
are they are training from all over the world. They're training with Japan, they're training with Europe, they're training in North America. All of these countries make it into the training set. It's really just more a function of, not just the raw number of miles, but how well they're able to train the model,
I
right?
feel like you're doing the thing where you're not going to answer the question. How many did they add in Q1? Let me just ask that question, then I'll do the math myself.
I think what was it, like 300,000 miles or something like that? Or 300 million?
This is like a decade away based on the miles. Right now, I understand the adoption
Okay.
question, but
Thank you. Joseph?
I definitely think Tesla needs more testers, but they need the right kind of testers, people who are actually going to, report back when there's a problem. I don't know that everyone is in a position to do that, but so my question to you guys is, there's a lot of people who would like to do that. I'm one of those. I would love to test the latest version, but we're never blessed with getting the latest version quickly. Is there anything we could do to convince Tesla to let people who want to be on the front lines be on the front lines so they can report back the problems that they're seeing with the latest version of FSD?
Sure. Go apply to be an ADAS tester at Tesla. They've got some job postings online. Then you can test it before anyone gets it.
Joseph, are you going to do that?
If that's a normal job, I've got a great job. I'm just saying that it would be nice when they roll things out to a lot of when you guys get it, that other people who would like to can get it to start testing too.
Well, they do have an early access program, so you could try and get into the early access program, and they'll send you software releases, a few days early before it goes out to the rest of the fleet.
Term, I mean, and long is not really that long, 5+ years from now, this will all just be remembered as small growing pains. Whether it's a compute issue or an adoption rate issue, the product's going to speak for itself. And all it's going to take is when this thing gets to the point where we're confident enough that it can drive without a human in the vehicle. Anytime there's a dinner party with 10 or more people and someone rolls up in a Tesla that picks them up at the curb, there's 9 people who just got sold on the software. So I think we live in a place where the product truly will.
Sorry, what did you say? Every time what happens? 9 people are sold.
Oh, did I cut out? Sorry.
Every time what happens? 9 people are sold on the software.
I said every time there's a dinner party with people that are seeing their friend, his car rolls up from his driveway across town to pick him up from dinner. I think that's what's going to sell the software to people is
when the software is really good, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Not now, not today.
No, I think right now it's a beta, and I've always stood by. I think the beta should be free. I've said that from the get-go. I think the $99, or which used to be $200, was to keep kind of loose cannons out of the test program. I think it was a barrier to entry. I think they wanted people who were serious and took it seriously. But in my opinion now, I think if they're really trying to grow users, I think they should open it up for free.
Grant?
Yeah, I agree with what Dallas is saying, that when it's a robotaxi, a lot of people will want to buy it. The question is whether it ever becomes a robotaxi. Won't go into that too much. One question I have on the specifics of making it free is what kinds of liabilities that could pop up. I actually don't know, but I mean, they've been doing a bunch of rev rec on the existing FSD, collections they've made to date. If they make it free, does that complicate that picture anyhow, where they've just got a free thing out and they can't really claim that they've made a ton of progress towards full L4 autonomy? Anyone have an opinion there?
Well, they already have free basic autopilot included in every car, so I don't imagine it would be that much different.
But they haven't they haven't charged a bunch of people for autopilot. I think that there's a
They did. They used to charge thousands of dollars for autopilot before they made it included.
Yeah, but they recognized all that revenue, and then at some point it became free. I think it's just different if you're going to continue to hold this massive. This is just accounting arcana. It's fine.
Well, I mean, if somebody has bought FSD, then they wouldn't be getting it for free, right? So their revenue will be recognized as normal. This is just for the people who haven't purchased it, so there's no revenue to recognize. They already have the free autopilot that's included in their car. We're just giving them a test of the more advanced ADAS system for one drive a day.
Yeah, but those people are suing Tesla because they haven't gotten the promised technology that Tesla sold them. I mean, that would supercharge those lawsuits at a minimum, where the people who, again, these are lawsuits.
You're really grasping at straws here. These people are not suing Tesla. They're
Read the
using
10K.
basic autopilot.
No, read the 10K. I mean, that stuff is in there. I mean, that's all Googleable public stuff. If you don't believe.
So why would someone who hasn't bought FSD be suing Tesla?
No, I'm saying the people who paid $15,000 are suing Tesla because they didn't get a car that drives itself. And if you make it free, those people are going to be madder because they spent $15,000 on something that's now free.
Most of the people I talk to are pretty happy.
I'm talking about the people suing them, Omar. Everyone you talk to thinks.
Hey, Grant, relax, okay? I know it sucks when you're just losing so much money and you're getting humiliated by the software getting better and better, but don't take it out on us.
Yeah. I need to be harder on trolls. I need to be harder on trolls. All right. I mean, another question I asked yesterday, which gathered quite a bit of a response, and Omar, this is your idea, that Tesla should do day passes. And I pinned this at the top, 42,000 views on this post, and close to 100 replies. And they had mixed responses to this, Omar. And you believe it should be $10 a month, right? I mean, a day, not $20. I think this would be huge.
10,
And then
10
there's
to
also
$20, yeah. Important,
10
very
to
important.
$20. Yeah. And there was another reply from Alphabet who said that people should be able to gift FSD passes, day passes, or weekend passes to each other. What do you think about that idea?
Absolutely. I would love to gift FSD to people. I would love to do it. I mean, these are all just like very basic things. If like we're thinking of ideas, they haven't even started to really try and monetize this yet. I think the bundle is a good step, but clearly there's a lot more they could be doing to drive adoption. And I mean, you look at some of these analyst notes, they're starting to look at FSD really seriously. You're starting to get analysts who are actually test driving FSD with each version and comparing it. You're starting to get journalists like Ed Ludlow at Bloomberg who are now using FSD daily in their lives and tweeting about it. So, I think it's a very material thing, and if they can show that FSD usage is increasing, any weakness in the core auto business won't matter.
Uzi, can you guys hear Uzi?
No, he cut off after the first few words.
My Wi-Fi is bad today. I don't know if it's working now.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, okay. So the day passes, I think that's a stepping stone to robotaxi. The more granular you can get to a particular trip, the more it will resemble robotaxi in the long term.
So why haven't they done gifting to others? I mean, that's a great idea. Alice?
I mean, I don't know. I think personally, I think the reason is I think you get one shot at convincing someone, like an average customer, not a Tesla quote unquote fanboy. I think you get kind of one shot at proving the worth of the software amongst the vast majority of people. And I think they're trying to hold off until it's, if we're at 200 miles per intervention, I think they're waiting until it's a couple times that, to where they're extremely confident that 100 out of 110 people are getting a perfect, flawless FSD experience.
But you agree with me. I mean, you own FSD, right? You agree with me that it's valuable today, increases your safety today, it's very
100%.
convenient today. So why wouldn't you be able to? Why don't you want to show it to others, your friends, colleagues, family, that, hey, try this out for a weekend?
No, I do. I'm separating myself from the masses of Tesla customers.
Why?
Because I'm in a totally different, what I would consider
I
a lot of.
mean, the other, like Tesla can offer this opportunity to gift it to others, and you can't do it. You don't have to speak for others.
Okay. Well, then, yeah, in my personal case, I would love it to be added. But I think the reason I was answering the reason I don't think they've done it yet. That was the question asked. I was just answering that.
Yeah, I think Dallas is right. The performance really matters. You don't want to go balls to the wall advertising something if people are going to try it and go, hey, this sucks. But we are starting to turn the corner now, I think, on that, where when you get to the point where it can reliably drive for hours without intervention, even in a place like San Francisco, obviously not every place is going to be as good. But when you start getting to that level and beyond, right, we're talking about 12.6, 12.7, which is going to be even better. I think it's time to start talking about this stuff. And I think that this is crossing the threshold into a consumer grade mass market product, just like autopilot is. I mean, I think if you surveyed Tesla drivers, pretty much everybody uses basic autopilot on the highway, and it's a consumer grade product. It's that level of reliability. I think FSD is crossing that threshold as well.
Okay, so if you want Tesla to be able to Tesla to offer day passes, reply to the tweet at the top, like, repost, tag whoever you know from Tesla, and see if you can get their attention. And also, if you have other ideas, you can reply to the tweet, the fourth tweet at the top. How would you accelerate FSD adoption? And tag whoever you know from Tesla, maybe Elon, and give them your idea, and maybe they'll pick it up. Alice?
Question for you: do you see any sort of influencer marketing in the future? With I know that term gets thrown around, and all of a sudden people start thinking about hair and makeup products on TikTok. But we do see.
Or what do you think this is?
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What do you think this is?
This is in the space we're in.
Yeah. How is this different from influencer marketing?
Well, I'm saying directly paid by Tesla, like out of their ad revenue.
Why? They're getting it for free.
Exactly. I mean, there's tons of people who just write about Tesla, generate a ton of ad revenue from YouTube, from X, from other places, just from talking about it. And, we're in mid-August now. Elon said Cybertruck FSD is going to ship in mid-August. Kim Kardashian, Bad Bunny, all these celebrities, Justin Bieber, you see with the Cybertruck, they're about to get their first FSD update. And I can bet you there's going to be a few Instagram stories when that comes out.
Yeah, I mean, to the extent that shareholders want Tesla to advertise and pay influencers and everything, you can literally just go subscribe to my channel, and I can reinvest that money into better equipment, into growing this channel, and it's the same thing. Or others, it's the same idea. Just a more direct approach. Omar, did you hear about this WeRide company, a Chinese autonomous driving company looking to IPO? They announced they're about to IPO at $5 billion expected valuation.
Yikes. Added to the graveyard of failed autonomy IPOs like Luminar and Too Simple and all those others. Don't touch this IPO with a 10-foot pole. Okay? These guys aren't even the best self-driving in China, let alone the best self-driving in the world. And, maybe they've got some amazing technology, I don't know, but clearly they're going to capital markets because they have no other way to find the capital to continue investing in this. And their chances of success are, I think, probably slim.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of investors out there who just will invest in anything when it comes to EVs or autonomous driving, and they don't do their research, and they'll buy into the IPO. But this company apparently has been testing with drivers. They just applied to start testing without drivers as well, and they're looking to IPO at $5 billion. The company's called WeRide, so we'll see. Felix.
Hey there. Hey, quick question. I saw based on the Q1 stats for autopilot safety that that the full self-driving is now more than 10 times safer than the average human. So I was just wondering what is preventing the robotaxi from being released?
Well, there's a big catch there. The big catch is when supervised. So it crashes 10 times less when supervised. That means that there was a human in the car who probably stopped a lot of crashes from happening. If you took him out, there would be a lot more crashes than a human. So what we want to achieve is actually 10 times better unsupervised. Even without a human, it's still 10 times better.
Right. Got it. That makes sense. And is it? I mean, I presumably Tesla is also learning from those points when the drivers had to step in and make adjustments for the FSD, right? So,
of course,
yeah. So it shouldn't take too long for all of those situations to be rectified?
Well, when as interventions trends to zero, then there are no difference between the supervised and unsupervised stats, right? So that's really the key. Drive interventions down to zero.
Hey, Omar, question. Actually, let's go to Joseph first. Joseph?
I think Tesla is going to do all the things that have been suggested here to get more adoption. I think the biggest reason why they're not is related to the comment that was just said. The fact that you do occasionally have to prevent it from getting into a crash, I think Tesla is going to be slow to mass market it. I bet as soon as Elon says they've switched to unsupervised is when you see the kinds of big advertisement push that you guys are saying is when that happens.
I mean, I think this gifting FSD idea to others is kind of separate from that. I think it's a great step today because the person who knows whoever they're gifting it to best decides when the software is ready for that person. I mean, what is the harm in offering FSD gifting today? There's no downside.
So that's actually a really good point because I would think that I know some of my friends who are into Tesla and that they would not be offended by software that you occasionally have to correct. So I think that's a good point.
Yeah, $20 for a weekend trip. Here, use this. I know you own a Tesla. You share with me all the benefits of EV ownership. Here's what you're missing out on. Get it for free. $20.
Make a physical gift card even, so I can hand them out at Tesla events.
Yeah, virtually signed by Elon.
Man, Tesla should hire us. We got some great ideas.
Yeah, I know. Jason,
Yeah, hello.
what's your question?
Yeah, go ahead. Oh, Mike.
Okay. Poor sound quality. Let's see. Omar, what did you think of the Grok 2 release?
Yeah, it's a big release. I mean, it's performing better than Claude and GPT-4 Turbo on a blind taste test where people just kind of, say which response they think is better without seeing the model. So, I mean, you know, people always go, the competition will catch up to Tesla. The competition will catch up to Tesla. Sure, Tesla's making an EV. The competition will make a better EV any day now. And here we are in 2024, 12 years after the introduction of the Model S. And not only have they failed to create a car that's as good as a Tesla in many ways, like charging, software, etc., but they have completely failed to become profitable. And you just look at like the speed of this guy, okay? GPT-4 comes out and it's like the hot new thing, right? Before you could even bat an eye, this guy started a new company, raised $6 billion, created a compute cluster of 100,000 GPUs, and trained a state of the art model. And they're not stopping there. They want to actually have a model that's better than GPT-4. They've already got Grok 3 training as we speak. And, in a way, it's kind of interesting because OpenAI has a partnership with Microsoft where they use Microsoft Azure GPUs to train. XAI is vertically integrated. They build and maintain the data center themselves, right? So Elon looks at the business. He goes, okay, fundamentally, this is a business about production, and we're going to vertically integrate that production into XAI. So he's come and taken something where people said, oh, OpenAI is so far ahead in AI, and he's caught up. They've trained a state of the art model incredibly quickly and built an incredible team and done that. So, I mean, I think it just speaks to Musk himself. Um, and it's also just exciting as a Tesla shareholder. Obviously, I expect these Grok models to be used in the car, to be used for Optimus. So if they're achieving great performance, that's a good thing. Just talking to the model here on X, if you've got X Premium, you can go into the little Grok tab. Go ahead and go chat with the Grok Mini. That's the smaller version of the model. So it's even less capable, smaller parameter count, but it's still very good. and you can ask it to create images now. They've partnered with somebody and they're doing image generation, very fast, realistic image generation, like some of the best image generation I've seen, honestly. So looks like a great release. I think Grok 3 is going to be even better. And, the XAI team is doing pretty impressive work, I have to say.
I was thinking the same thing, that the images that I see people posting are some of the best I've seen. And I actually used Meta AI's free service as well to generate some thumbnails and stuff, and it was horrible. I'm surprised because Meta AI has access to Instagram data, Facebook data, etc. So how did Grok achieve such great image generation?
Yeah, they said in the blog post that they were using some model. I'm not really sure, but the results are great. And I think a lot of people are going to use it, right? So in this sort of war of the chatbots, well, why not use the chatbot that's already integrated into the app you're using all the time? As you're already using X, why go to a different app that, has a model that can't access X data in real time when you've got a model right there that can query all the tweets you see in real time? And I mean, really, this is going to be transformational to the product. Twitter has been around as a product for a long time, but for almost all of its history, the computer couldn't understand what we were actually tweeting, right? It's just copying these tweets around the world. It has no understanding of what those words mean. Now, for the first time, with Grok, X can actually understand what we're saying. So you see this new Explore tab, for example, where they're summarizing tweets and coming up with news headlines, and you can see all the tweets on a topic collected together. They'll be able to say, okay, here's a tweet. Can you find something that has the opposing viewpoint? And maybe show that next in the feed to make it more interesting. Can they show us what the sentiment of tweets is, which are positive, which are negative, and not try and bum us out with too much negativity, maybe give us a little bit of a mix, maybe allow us to control what topics we're seeing in a more dynamic way than just mute words. There's a ton of potential, and I think it could really transform the product of X.
Good. Joseph.
I think we just witnessed today why it is so important that Tesla really invests in this company. One thing that really needs to be emphasized is the velocity that they are moving. This company wasn't founded until after all of the other main companies had released their first versions of models, whether it was Llama and GPT, things like that. And they have, despite being founded after these people had already released models, state-of-the-art model, excellent image generation. The velocity is insane. You want to be a part of this company. This is the company that is definitely moving at a velocity that is going to change the landscape.
Joe.
Definitely moving at a velocity that is going to change the landscape.
Joe.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point that Omar makes of the key advantage of buying all its apps into one.
Speaking of copycat Zuckerberg, let's go to Joseph first. I think Joseph, you got to speak, right? Dan, go ahead.
Hey guys, do you see any realistic use cases for, say, X or specifically Grok to be part of native Tesla software in the vehicle? I'm super curious as to what kind of crossovers there might be there. I mean, you'd think there's got to be some sort of leveraging with the data that they're getting over at X, but super curious as to if you guys have heard anything or what your thoughts are.
Omar, when is Grok coming to Teslas?
Yeah, so there is actually work being done on a voice assistant for Tesla. That's going to be let me see. I'll copy in the comments here the tweet from Green. So he's actually seen in the vehicle firmware already. As recently as May, he was talking about this. So they've been working on this for quite some time and may be ready to release relatively soon. But he said beginning of what looks like a Tesla voice assistant that would be activated by a wake word. So just like you can say, hey, whatever, your device, you'll be able to say, hey, Tesla, and then just start speaking without having to push that button on your wheel. So you'll be able to say, hey, Tesla, whatever, and ask it any query. And then Grok would answer that query. And it looks like it is going to be narrated by the Jenny Neutral voice by Microsoft. So using Microsoft text to speech, and you'll be able to have a conversation with Grok on your car. And that would probably encompass basic controls, hey, turn the temperature up, um, that type of stuff. But also, you could have broader queries, like you could say, hey, what are people tweeting about on X? Is there, something new there? Um, who is the president of the United States in 1850 or whatever? Any question you might ask an LLM. So that I think is going to be the first integration. The next step beyond that is really going to be integrating Grok Vision into FSD. I think that having a Grok model that is a smaller model that can run on the car, but also handle visual processing, it could be useful for a lot of things in self-driving, like, for example, reading signs in English and understanding what they mean and how to translate that into controlling the car.
Okay, good. I'm going to go to Joseph as well, but and then we're going to talk a little bit about threads. At the top of our screens is a question I posted. Should Tesla allow gifting FSD day passes? Should Tesla allow gifting FSD day passes? Please reply to that. And also maybe tag who would you give it gifted to? Say $20 for a day or a weekend, or $50 for 2 weeks, something of that sort. Like, reply, mention any Tesla employees that you may know to get their attention. Joseph?
Okay, well, the answer is yes to that question. Anyway, I
It
actually
doesn't count. It doesn't count until you reply to it.
Okay. I don't have a lot to say because Omar actually said everything I was going to say. I was going to say, that the real use case here is you're going to be able to tell the car your thought process of like what your goal is you're trying to accomplish is. I need to get across the city, but I need, whatever. And also its ability to read street signs. The only thing I will say Omar didn't mention is this is also going to find a way into Optimus. And it's just combining all of this will make it so that between your app on your phone, your car, Optimus will just be a consistent experience with interacting with AI.
Yeah, speech is going to be really critical for Optimus. It may be the primary interface for communicating with Optimus.
Okay, we were earlier talking about Mark Zuckerberg copying things, and I have a Threads account as well. I want to keep an eye on sentiment over there. So I pinned at the top of our screens, for example, one exchange I had with this is a popular account on Instagram, and they have a Threads account as well. And they said electric vehicles owners should only be allowed to charge their cars using solar and wind power. Otherwise, it's just pretend. So I explained in a reply that electric motors are 4x more efficient than ICE engines, even if the entire electrical grid was running on coal, which would obviously is not the case. EVs would still be 4x less poisonous for you and for your loved ones. And this reply got a lot of attention, some likes, more than 1,000 views. Threads in general has lots of hate towards EVs, Tesla, and Elon, obviously. And I wonder, Omar, if we're missing an opportunity to spread facts beyond X here.
I mean, there's a lot of websites on the internet, there's Reddit, there's different forums for diesel car lovers. We obviously can't be anywhere. I mean, I do have a Threads account, but X pays me a lot of money in ad revenue share. So that's why I want to focus on this platform. Threads doesn't really do that yet. Maybe they will in the future. But that's kind of the reason why I don't post too much on Threads. Like every once in a while, I'll go check it out. Um, but there isn't really too much happening there. Most stuff that gets posted there gets posted here too. So people even have like two accounts sometimes. There's people there. Even like Karpathi's there. Everybody's there. But it's mostly just like people from your high school and stuff. So I don't spend too much time using it. But if there are people who use Threads, definitely like spread the word. uh it's definitely going to be a higher concentration of people who don't like Tesla. I mean, the app was literally created uh because Elon bought Twitter, and just to kind of capitalize on people who want to protest and go to some different app. So obviously there's going to be a much higher concentration of haters there. um it- so it may make sense to kind of get the information out there, but certain people just don't want to hear it, right? There's probably
Yeah,
not much you could say to those people.
yeah,
It's really the normal people who don't have a strong opinion who we can probably sway pretty easily.
yeah. Just one quick request. If you're on YouTube, please let me know in the live chat how the audio quality is. I've taken some actions to improve it quite a bit over the last 48 hours. I want to make sure audio quality on YouTube is perfect. So if it's not perfect, let me know ASAP. Llama Mama. Llama, you may go ahead. Ugh, man, hosting this space is not easy. Can I just vent for a second? There's a lot going on in the background, and I'm like constantly paying attention to several things, and I ask people questions, and it's frustrating. Like I can half listen when I'm reviewing this space after the fact for my patrons to do a summary. I'm like hearing new things that I couldn't hear when I'm hosting because of all this nonsense in the background. Omar, do you think Threads poses a risk to X growth in the future?
Um, yes. I mean, they're a serious competitor. They're number one on the free charts. And Mark Zuckerberg is very good at making money from social media. I mean, their ads product wipes the floor with X's ad products. If you're an advertiser and you want to market to 35 year old overweight men who have athlete's foot, you can literally do that. Okay. Um, so yes, I would take them seriously as a competitor.
Yeah, I think Threads is growing. I was looking at some data over the weekend, and I mean, they're still a fraction of what Twitter X is, but they're growing a little bit in recent months.
Well, the interesting thing about Threads is I think that I forgot what's that thing called that Mastodon is based on, Activity Pub or something. So they said they were going to base it on Activity Pub and it was going to be open. So in theory, that opens the door to actually connect the two social networks. They, in theory, could be interoperable. Now, X hasn't said that they're going to support Activity Pub, but it is possible that you could just join the two networks in the future and allow cross communication between them. But we'll see what happens. It does seem to be growing, but you know, um, I think X is still the bigger platform. It's still kind of where things happen. I think Threads is really more focused on just being like a place for your friends to post little posts with each other, and like funny memes and haha. And it's not trying to be like where Joe Biden, makes a huge announcement kind of place and people discuss it. They want it to just be nice, advertiser friendly. I can slap a little ad for Coca-Cola right there, and I don't have to worry that the post above is about like how transgender people are ruining the earth or whatever.
Brooklyn.
Okay, so basically, I feel like decentralizing FUD. It's a really nice idea, especially.
It's poor audio quality. Rich, I saw your reply. Would you like to tell us about it?
Yeah, thanks. I actually didn't really feel like talking today, but too many clients speaking today. So I often get FUD sent to me. I've got an older brother who is just an Elon Musk hater, won't even be on X. So what I just posted was an example of social media influencer on Instagram who shared that she was getting sick because she purchased a Tesla, and it was shared over like 400,000 times. And I mean, this was a couple weeks ago. Spent a lot of time just going through the comments and seeing what people are saying, and it goes off the rails. And everything from electric magnetic frequency from the battery being the issue. And I think just at the end of the day, she had mold somewhere in the car. So she might have had like a windshield replaced and it wasn't done properly. And, she was parking the car outside and there was water coming in and she was driving it long distance and she started getting headaches, which, if there's mold or air quality issues in the car, then that makes sense. But the way that she posted it is just, it's a Tesla issue. And then just everybody jumps on it. And I see it often on Instagram or YouTube comments. And I wish there was a better way to fight that. I think that demographics of the people that are on Instagram, TikTok, are different, younger age. And I've got data, just through my work that I do with other clients. I look at stuff like that, and I think that's part of the challenge. And so I just don't know how to fight that, because that's the type of stuff that you hear on the street when you say you've got a Tesla. I do, at least, because I ask a lot of questions, and people are just, oh, did you see, that whole issue with the pedal on the Cybertruck? And they're getting that from the social media feeds that they're looking at. So I just thought I'd share that.
Thank you. Uzi?
I saw the same thing too. Younger sibling on Instagram and TikTok. I think a lot of the videos start on TikTok and they'll go to Instagram. And there's no community notes, so the truth seeking isn't really there. It's to get clicks. And I see other ones where it's like an ICE car blows up and they say, oh, Tesla blew up or something. So looking from this community, you're like, this is bogus. But on the other hand, there's no coherent strategy to deter that. So you kind of just have to not pay attention to it, I guess.
Can you guys see Llama as a speaker? Okay. Maybe a connection issue going on. We talked about day passes. We talked about Grok 2. I think this update to Grok is going to really drive premium subscriptions. I think Grok is really underrated at this point. It's improving at a rapid pace. I do recommend people subscribe to Premium Plus. We got the inflation data this morning. It came in as expected. I think it looks like the Fed is going to cut rates by about 25 basis points in September. At least that's the expectation of the market right now. Well, that's good news. Omar, any thoughts on that?
Finally.
Yeah. What do you think that's going to do to Tesla stock price or markets in general? Any thoughts on that?
I think Tesla has been a huge interest rate loser. And you can literally see the price action move sort of minutes after any news on monetary policy. So my expectation is that you need to see rates coming down before people, particularly institutions, hedge funds, really get excited about this story, because then you're not fighting a headwind, you've actually got a tailwind at your sails. And meanwhile, you've tightened down efficient. Um, you've sort of hunkered down and now you've got the wind at your back. That's a situation where you tend to see a lot more growth. So I think rates coming down is really crucial. And some of the softening we've seen in the labor market and in the economy, even in the equities market, is probably a good sign in that it's helping make the case that the time to start cutting is now. It's, um, I think a 25 basis point cut is about right. So, you know, 0.25% less interest doesn't really make that much of a difference. But I expect them to continue to follow it up with further 25 basis point cuts until we arrive at a much less restrictive level.
Okay. What do you think about changing topics? Google, there's some rumors that the DOJ is looking to break it up. Do you think this is a serious threat to Google? A serious proposition? Do you think this is when we start seeing more regulation of big tech?
Well, I sold out of my Google position when I heard this news. Before they even announced that they were considering a breakup as a potential remedy, as soon as they announced the judgment, within a minute, I was like, bye. Those shares were gone. Because, it's just uncertainty. I don't know what's going to happen, right? So I may reopen a position again after this is resolved, but I don't know what's going to happen. And breakup is one potential thing that could happen. The last time the Justice Department sought the breakup of a major tech company on antitrust grounds was Microsoft. And they actually failed to actually break it up. As we know, Microsoft is still one company today. They agreed to make some changes to, I think, be less anti-competitive. Some of the practices that the Justice Department flagged that they called anti-competitive, I think they kind of reformed some of those practices. Let you set a different default browser, that kind of thing. Um, and they were able to avoid the breakup. Although I'm not, I'm a little bit rusty on what the details were. I think I was like a baby at that point or something. So I'm not quite sure what happened. I only, have read about it, but they avoided breakup. The last big time that the government actually did get a breakup of a major corporation was AT&T in the 90s, or sorry, 80s. And AT&T was this giant telephone monopoly. I think they started breaking it up into, AT&T wireless division, landline division, that kind of thing, splitting it up into regional divisions. And yeah, that was the last time it happened successfully. So, probably they're not going to break up Google. That strikes me as very crazy. Like maybe the remedy would be get them to stop doing certain practices, but I'm not really sure how you would break up Google, and we'd really lose a pretty great American company, I think. So I don't necessarily see that as the likely outcome. It is a possible outcome, but my expectation is that they'll probably find alternative remedies that don't involve breaking up the company. It would certainly be unprecedented in history to break up a major tech company like this, and we've never really had a $1 trillion tech company, let alone the government try and break one up. On the other hand, maybe they do need to be broken up. Maybe it would be better if there was more competition, if you know, there could be more startups tackling this, and a breakup might do that.
Uzi.
I wanted to clarify two things or get your thoughts. So this is on the basis of Apple and Google's collaboration, setting the default browser. Is that correct?
Right.
That was one of the things.
Okay,
But
and then oh yeah, go for it.
yeah, there was other things too. That was one of the main points. But yeah.
And then my other question was, why is it not the FTC with Lena Khan? Why is it instead the Justice Department?
So, the Sherman Antitrust Act of the 1930s gave the Justice Department um, the ability to bring up antitrust action. What was happening at those times, I think, was people were digging for oil, and then they would just say, "Hey, we're going to combine all these oil operations, all these oil producers, and we're going to form a trust, and they're all going to be part of this trust, and we're basically going to corner the market, right? So we don't have any competition. We can set the prices wherever we are, and we can harm consumers by just jacking up the prices, and there's no competition to come in and bring the prices down." So that's why the Sherman Antitrust Act was passed. And they said, okay, we're going to go take these trusts and just break them up. You guys are separate companies now. You cannot be, one conglomerate. And then we can, create some competition. Actually, Chevron and Exxon used to be one company. It was called Standard Oil. And, Rockefeller, great guy, started Standard Oil and they said, okay, we're going to break it up. West Coast side, that's going to be called Chevron. East Coast side, that's going to be called ExxonMobil. And there have been various reconfigurations over time, but the government can yield that power and does at times in history.
I mean, we're talking about this because this may have implications for Tesla down the line. Probably not today, probably not in the next couple of years, but since this space is focused on long-term investors, 5-10 years down the line, it also helps understand some of the decisions that Tesla makes today. For example, opening up superchargers to the rest of the automakers, talking about potential licensing FSD to other automakers. All of these are, trying to preempt concerns down the line.
Well, I mean, Tesla is not anti-competitive. That's the thing. There's companies like Apple that say, no, our text messages are blue. You can't have a blue text message. But then there's Tesla that says, hey, come use our supercharger network. You're just making us look bad with your crappy charging network. Come use our supercharger network. Oh, you want to use our patents? Here they are. You can use them all for free as long as you don't mess with us. Oh, you want FSD? Don't worry, you don't have to develop your own. Just license ours. And, we'll give it to you practically free. Just, obviously you have to pay for the software. So, yeah, I do think you're right. They are not acting in an anti-competitive way. Elon's belief has always been the rate of innovation is key. You don't have to be anti-competitive and protect your business if you're innovating much faster than everybody else, because then you'll always be one step ahead, right? Everybody else is now making EVs. Tesla's now moved on to making autonomous robots, including their cars, right? So if you just innovate faster, you'll always stay one step ahead. And Tesla hasn't really relied on anti-competitive tactics to maintain their lead. So, I mean, decades into the future, who knows? But I think they've done a good job of sticking to the ethos of supporting competition and not using their lead in an unfair way to maintain an advantage.
Speaking of pace of innovation, Omar, before you joined, we talked about Zeekr. Chinese automakers are also increasing the heat a little bit in terms of pace of innovation and their offerings. So Zeekr, for example, launched 3 versions of its 001 sedan in the last 12 months. Each version has significant improvements, from introducing CATL batteries to new motors, new electrical architecture like 800-volt architecture, and switching from Mobileye to NVIDIA hardware. This has angered their previous customers who bought the older hardware. So I guess this is not a Tesla specific issue. People appear to start expecting even OTA updates for their hardware these days. Kind of amazing, actually. Kind of makes me wonder what's going to happen to Ford and GM and others who can't even do over-the-air software updates to the extent that Tesla can.
And it just shows you also how it's important to make your own chips. Because for Tesla, hardware 3 and hardware 4 are both Tesla chips. But moving from Mobileye to NVIDIA, those are completely different chipsets. The software that runs on one is not going to run on others on the other at all, right? So it's very, very different. It's an entirely different system. And Tesla actually went through that too. They were using NVIDIA before, and then they switched to using their own chip. So they had to go through that transition. But it just highlights how making your own chip is really helpful.
And Zeekr also introduced an LFP battery that can charge from 10 to 80% in 10 minutes, coming out next year. And it's going to start in price at $30,000. As a Tesla investor, does this concern you? Right.
I mean, no, they're using a CATL battery. CATL is Tesla's biggest supplier. So, I mean, it's not like they're only going to sell the batteries to them. We're going to get these batteries too. And frankly, these LFP batteries are just amazing. CATL is doing great work. I mean, the quality of battery you can get now and the price you can get it at in China is just unbelievable. It's really exciting to see that kind of progress. So, these will be, I think, on the standard range Tesla vehicles as well.
All right. I think that's everything I want to cover today. Any other questions, comments? Please request to speak. Otherwise, we can call it a day. Anything else on your mind, Omar? I said yesterday we would talk about the 1010 event. Has your expectations changed at all about 1010? It's coming up now. It's less than 2 months away.
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be the most significant product unveil since the Model 3 unveil. This is really what's next after the Model 3 and Y. And they're going to show off some new models and also, for the first time, a model without controls. So we're really stepping into a new era of car design here where, the thing doesn't even have controls. So we're going to have to throw out pretty much everything we knew about what a car even is and how it should be designed internally. And I'm really excited to see what Franz and the team have thought up here. We are seeing more pictures of a Model 3 driving around with tape over its cameras and a very different camera configuration. And I believe, I can't imagine what else it would be. It seems like that is testing out the Cybercab camera configuration and that they're getting ready to do a live demo at the event, but obviously they need to test it and they can't have a Cybercab just, driving around validating data. So that's why they have those Model 3s that are hooked up with the Cybercab camera configuration so that they can sort of, show that and make it work on the Cybercab and do a live demo on 1010. So I think the Cybercab will obviously be the big conversation piece. But then they did mention that they're delaying it so that they could add a few more things in. And I wouldn't be surprised if they showed off the new, more affordable, compact Tesla models that they said were going to be built on the 3 and Y platform and showed those off with physical controls. And, they've said that they're ready to start production of these in the first half of 2025. So this could really be like a jaw-dropping announcement where they say, here's a new product that we've got, a cheaper version of the Model Y, call it a Model Y Mini or whatever, $30,000, and deliveries are going to start in a few months, right? I mean, Tesla's never unveiled a vehicle like that before. It's always been, here's the car, put down the pre-order. We'll see you in 2 years, hopefully. So something like this, where it's a low cost model and you can get it pretty soon, would be something we've never seen before from Tesla. So I think it's going to be a super exciting event. I can hardly think of an event that was this exciting, except maybe the Cybertruck unveil in 2019.
Why do you think Elon said most people will still won't get it?
Well, it's probably going to be really weird. That's what I took from that comment. It's probably going to be strange, like the same way when you saw Cybertruck for the first time, you were like, huh? What is that? And it sounds like what they're doing with the Cybercab is really doing a two-person vehicle that is smaller and just has the lowest cost per mile, right? So I think most people will look at it and say, that's some small little car. I don't really understand why you would want that. It kind of goes against, I think, American sensibilities where people want to ride in this huge car. But if you're just looking at the lowest cost per mile to handle the bulk of rideshare traffic, delivering a person, delivering someone's sandwich, that car gives you the lowest cost per mile while also giving you complete flexibility to go wherever you want and not have to share the car with someone else, right? Because if you did a 4 or 5 person car, you'd always end up sharing the car, or the lowest priced option would be a share option. With one or two, you can still share it with another person or bring a person, but it's a lot more privacy taking you straight to your destination rather than, some big shared experience. So I think that's actually a winning formula. The winning player here, I think, is just going to be whoever has the lowest cost per mile and whoever can produce as many units. And when you have a smaller car physically, let's say it's just, I think it's not going to be a front row and a back row, just one seating area. That allows you to take up the whole space of the car and have a car that's physically smaller than the 3 and Y, but that feels bigger because you're actually using 100% of that space for the single row of two seats. Then you have, let's say you have a fixed amount of battery capacity. With that smaller vehicle, you need less battery to get the same range. So you could make, let's say, two cars instead of one and have them both go and give rides because most rides are just one or two people. So I think this isn't actually explored enough. Like actually Rimac, they've kind of got the right idea for a robotaxi if you look at what they unveiled. And I think we're going to see something along those lines for the Cybercab, a smaller vehicle than the 3 and Y that's just focused on the lowest cost per mile. And if you want to have a ride with 3 people or 5 people, or you want to have more space, you can still order a Model 3 or Y as a robotaxi. But I think the Cybercab is actually going to be focused on the low end, the cheapest option.
Brandon? Brandon?
Hi. So, Omar, obviously one of Tesla's main focuses is safety. Do you think they can make a robo taxi that would be only 2 seats, as safe as let's say like a Model Y or a Model 3 even?
If they couldn't, then I don't think they would do it. It's going to be, the safest car you've ever been in.
Do you think we'll see Optimus being showcased?
I hope so. That would be a pretty cool demo. I'd
We
love to
haven't
see.
gotten an update in a while.
Yeah, that's because they don't want to let the competition see what they're doing. They're making huge leaps in Optimus, from what I've heard. Even bigger than what we're seeing with FSD. I mean, you can imagine if FSD is getting this good, Optimus must be improving a lot as
So,
well.
so remember your bets with, or was it my bet or somebody's bet with Machine? Um, he believes Optimus will generate the first $1 billion in profits even before Tesla robotaxis. And you were very adamant about it being robotaxis. Based on what you've heard about Optimus making big leaps, are you changing your answer?
No, I mean, I think Elon said, what was it? 2025, it'll be used internally, 2026 to other customers. So, I would expect that robotaxi will be on the market and probably generating revenue before they even start selling it to other customers. So I think they're on track. I mean, I don't think people really realize the degree to which autonomy is here. Like, we take driverless rides all the time now. Yesterday I was in some space with Herbert and they were discussing driverless rides, and I was in a driverless car with the discussion, and people still act like this isn't here, it's not generating revenue. Tesla is actually leapfrogging Waymo in their driving capability. Me and my girlfriend both remarked, wow, this is a little more jerky. It's not as good as Tesla FSD. Tesla FSD wouldn't slam on the brakes like this thing just did. And I think they're going to leapfrog them in miles per intervention as well. And they're going to start generating meaningful revenue. I mean, it is getting pretty close to being able to offer a robotaxi service in San Francisco. Certainly, I think at night with remote monitoring, carefully selecting the routes it takes, you could probably, you're probably getting to being able to offer it pretty soon, if not now. So I still expect that robotaxis will generate $1 billion before Optimus.
Interesting. Well, he's not here to defend himself, but I mean, I just don't know if Waymo is the benchmark here, especially when it comes to profitability, because Waymo obviously is still losing money. As we know, Google just announced $5 billion incremental investments into Waymo, and if they were anywhere close to be profitable, I don't think we would have heard the announcement. So, if Google is not there, exceeding their interventions, miles per intervention, how does that relate to a profitability conversation?
Well, we have a dramatically different cost structure than Google does. I mean, you can just look at the car and see that cost structure. It's right on the face of the product itself. The Tesla's sleek, it looks good. The Waymo has tons of things sticking out of it, spinning. There's remote operators, there's people following the car. So as we achieve it and we leapfrog Waymo, we'll not just exceed their performance, but we'll do so profitably, right? All of these cars are purchased by customers. We're not funding the fleet, right? The customers are buying the car and they're actually paying us to use the software. In their case, they're buying the car and it's just a loss for them. In Tesla's case, they're selling the car to someone who then owns it. So it's a completely different cost structure. And Waymo has shown that it can be done. They've shown that you can take a driverless ride and you can, my car's been getting ceramic coated, so I've been using Waymo for everything. So you can just take it around everywhere and it's just going to work perfectly every time. That is a reality today for the technology. And Tesla has the cost structure to do it at scale and do it profitably. And most people are not realizing how, there's more than 2 million driverless rides, 2.6 actually, more than 2.6 million driverless rides and growing. Soon we're going to be doing tens of millions of driverless rides a year, hundreds of millions, billions. This is growing fast. And Optimus hasn't even finalized the design yet to be able to sell it. So I don't think it's any contest.
Yoda.
Doesn't the issue with Waymo eventually becomes production? I don't know if they've already unveiled how they're going to produce and their production plans, but I think at low volumes, they can get away with the costs, but as soon as they need to churn out tens of thousands, 100,000s to million vehicles, that's where the capex requirements, if not done right, will basically tank the program.
Well, they can't scale faster because it would be too expensive to. You're right. So, honestly, it's hard to really say anything bad about them these days. Like, just go to Phoenix or go to San Francisco. Anyone can download the app and ride in one. So go do that. As an investor, everybody has to experience this. You have to experience sitting in the back of a driverless car and just forgetting. And you're just checking your phone and you don't even think about it. And it just works every time. You have to experience this as an investor. And yeah, they're losing $2 billion, but I mean, they made autonomy work. They've demonstrated it can be done and it works perfectly. And it reduces 80% of injury causing accidents. An independent third party insurance company has found that. So, yes, they do have a business issue with the fact that they're losing money and that makes it slower to scale. That does leave them vulnerable to a company like Tesla or somebody else expanding much faster than them. But they've also got some of the smartest engineers in the world, and they are adding new cars into the network, and they're expanding their service area. They're now going to Daly City. They're now letting employees drive on the highway driverlessly. And if that goes well, they're going to expand it to customers like me. So they are making progress. It's not rapid progress, but hats off to them because I'm able to have this driverless service and I take it every time and it works. And so yesterday I went down outside of the service area to San Jose. And for the first time in like a month, I had to take a human driven Uber. And it was like a scary experience. This guy's just like driving all over the place. Like, we're stuck in the traffic jam. He's getting annoyed. I'm like, oh my God, I forgot how, and he was a great guy. It's not like he was doing anything wrong, but being in a computer driven car that just drives smoothly without a human, you can just talk shit, you can blast music, you can do whatever. It's just so obviously superior. And my hat's off to them for creating the service because I love using it. And everything we've talked about with driverless cars, all the benefits, it's real. So the focus now is we just need to expand this to cover the entire earth. We need to give everybody this technology as fast as possible. And I don't see any company that's poised to do that as well as Tesla can, which is why I'm so excited about FSD.
We have some breaking news within the last hour. Different topic. World Health Organization declares mpox an international emergency. World Health Organization declares mpox international emergency. Monkeypox. Interesting. Stocks haven't reacted to it at all. But if you remember back in early 2020, late 2019, early 2020, there were reports of COVID starting in China in December. And then it spread across, we heard about Wuhan in January. And then it came to the US in February, I think. And then the markets tanked in March. Omar, do you think we're seeing a repeat of this?
Probably not. I don't know. I mean, monkeypox doesn't sound fun. But I think we'll be fine. I don't know.
Uzi?
I'm particularly jaded because of COVID, but even growing up, there was Ebola, Zika, a whole list of them, and COVID turned out to be lockdowns. But I think, for the most part, you have to sort of wait till it comes to your country, see what happens.
I mean, I think what we learned from COVID was that it ended when we stopped caring about it. It didn't actually go away, right? People are still getting in COVID, but everyone just realized that we were being dumbasses. We're like, wait, what are we doing? How long are we gonna stay inside? Oh my God, what if I get COVID? And then like you got it and it was, it kind of sucked, but then you were fine. And, I think people kind of overreacted. Oh my God, we gotta shut down the entire economy. Um, I think a lot of mistakes were made there. And we're still dealing with the ramifications when you look at inflation and, this tightening cycle. We're dealing with the ramifications of that panic. Um, so, even if there is some super deadly monkey disease, someone banged a monkey and they got monkeypox or whatever the story is, and, everyone's getting monkeypox now. I'm hopeful that we'll deal with it in a more sane way and not, shut down the entire global economy and tell everyone to stay home.
Yeah. Yoda, any update to your expectations for 1010?
Yeah, for 1010, I will stick with the unveiling of the car and the service, albeit very limited.
Interesting. Are you watching FSD Tracker at all?
Yeah, I took a look a while back, but to be honest, the data the data is not, I think, at critical mass
Okay, so you
to
agree
be
with
telling
Omar.
anything.
You're completely dismissing the tracker.
I am. Only because I get to experience
I
it
mean, what about
firsthand.
Omar's comment that the latest version is having more critical disengagements than the previous version?
Sorry, has more?
Yeah, that 12.5
I don't agree with that.
12.5.1.
That's not accurate.
That's what you said.
Well, it must have been out of date or something because the most recent version, I haven't had any critical disengagements, and I drove for hours with it.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, like, I think critical disengagements is an important metric. But as I mentioned, it's sort of like judging a basketball player by his turnovers. That's important, but a, a player could have a lot of turnover, play great or show great potential, especially if they're super early in their careers. So I feel like having FSD and testing it firsthand puts me in a scouter position where I'm not taking a random sample of a minute of playtime and counting their turnovers, but I'm actually scouting and I'm watching, 20 games of the young player's season and seeing if there's progress and if there's greatness. And I think there will be new metrics that will, things like satisfaction, of course, and FSD adoption rate that will be more telling soon.
What do you
Yeah,
think people will be talking about, Yoda, after 1010? The day after, what do you think people will be talking about? Do you expect any surprises on the event?
Well, I think from a stock perspective, a lot of these events, the stock doesn't perform well the following day. So I don't have much expectations there. But what I am expecting in terms of what people will be talking about is I believe Tesla is entering a age of renaissance. The last major product was the Cybertruck back in 19. So it's been, five-ish years. Um, I think we're gonna see a chain of new products, major products that will maybe not all of them on 1010, but more than I think what we're expecting, and then there will be more following that.
Okay. Are you holding on to your NVIDIA and TSMC shares? Are you adding some more at these levels?
I am holding onto them for sure. The second half of the year is really where you're gonna see TSMC's revenue growth start. Their revenue is so vast from the non-AI, data center type products that the first wave of NVIDIA's gains in terms of the H100, H200s didn't really put that much of a dent in TSMC, but you're going to see that change. 2 nano, fabs are being built. First one being completed by the end of the year in production. So lots of great things happening. I am not investing yet in Supermicro, but it's starting to look good in terms of the PE.
Okay. Thank you very much for answering my questions. Omar, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think the metric people really need to be looking at is user satisfaction for FSD. If you're
You
not
can't
asked,
measure that though. Like, how are you going to measure that?
well, you ask people, are they satisfied? How do they like it?
That's just anecdotal evidence, you know?
No, it's not anecdotal. You can survey people in a methodical way and you can measure their satisfaction. You can ask them, would you buy this product again? Are you planning to continue to subscribe? Things like that, you know? And you actually don't have to survey that many people to get a sample that's representative of the broader population. So, like, when you're asking the wrong questions, you're not going to get the right answers. So if you're looking at this and saying, okay, how many critical disengagements does it have? How many does a robotaxi need? Obviously, it's not a robotaxi. It's like going to your Mario game on Super Nintendo and asking it to, do your math homework and then being surprised that it can't. It's a ADAS product. Whether it generates revenue or not this year is simply a function of whether users like it enough to pay for it. So do they like it or do they not like it? It's obviously improving rapidly. It's far from a robotaxi, but it's trending in that direction. It may take longer than we like. What really matters in the immediate term is, do people want to buy a Tesla car because of this? Do they subscribe? Do they buy? What is the consumer behavior going to be? And I think what really matters to me is financial materiality. I don't care if it's $1 of earnings from being a robotaxi, or $1 of earnings from a software subscription, or $1 of earnings from selling another car. I just want to see earnings. If they invest something and they're able to get money out, I'm happy. And we always have the chance to generate much more earnings in the future with robotaxi, but this is a really essential product for me today. And I think a lot more consumers are going to feel that way when they try the hands-free 12.5.
I mean, I understand there's a methodical way of doing surveys and you don't have to ask more than a couple hundred people, but it is not empirical. It's not going to be as strong as data measured directly from the cars.
But we don't have data measured.
I know, but satisfaction is also very subjective. I think survey data is just one step above anecdotal data. It's not that, like, who's going to tell you? Somebody who's bought $10,000, paid $10,000 for a software, who's going to say, no, I was a dumbass. I shouldn't have done that.
A lot of people will if they don't like it. I mean, a survey would be a more accurate picture than like what we're looking with this FSD tracker data, which is still surveys of people, but is very, you know, messy, right? Trying to draw like a conclusion about the overall performance of that system from that data is a lot more murky than simply trying to assess the general sentiment or satisfaction with FSD by conducting, a survey. I mean, you can't just post it on Twitter and survey people on Twitter. You would really need to find a way to find a representative sample of the Tesla population. So, I think there's obviously a place for measuring directly. Like, I'm trying to create a system right now that's going to be able to pull FSD stats directly off the car without any human sort of giving their opinion in between. And I think that'll be really interesting to track, like just, number of miles per intervention, um, and that type of thing directly from the car. But what's going to tell you the materiality of FSD is, are users satisfied and willing to purchase this, right? And what is the miles per intervention needed? You can kind of debate that, but the users will tell you if they're satisfied or if they're not satisfied, and whether they're going to renew their subscription, whether they're going to cancel it, or whether they'd buy FSD on the next car.
Yoda?
Yeah, there was a very clear difference between version 11 and version 12.3, and I know 12.5 is going to get better, but I would say it was very clear for me that version 11 was not good enough for me to just subscribe or purchase a product outright. But this current version that I have, 12.3.6, is something I probably can't drive without. For Omar, I would say maybe 12.5. If I were to pay you $10,000, you can have it for 1 year. Would you take the 10 grand, or would you rather have FSD without the 10 grand? I think, it's
FSD.
it's becoming quite clear that there is value, and that will come through on, people keeping their subscriptions, as well as one thing very important, which is referrals. If I'm starting to refer the product to family and friends, that's going to be a great sign. So yeah, I think we'll see, but the trend is looking really good.
Yeah, and I think 12.5 is going to be a bigger jump, 12.3 to 12.5, than V11 to V12 was.
That's very exciting to hear. I can't wait to test it.
Yoda, when do you think FSD users will get to 1 million?
I lost count. What is it roughly at right now?
It's a couple 100,000.
Yeah, I think the moment it gets unleashed into China, I think you'll get like a doubling of the current number. But I think without China coming online, it'll be much slower.
Okay, but you didn't answer my question. The question was, when do you think we'll get to 1 million?
Q2 2025.
All right, Omar, do you still think it's going to happen by year end?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance it could. Certainly, I think within the next 12 months. Yoda's right that the international launch will be a big lever there. But I think you could get to 1 million with the United States and Canada alone.
Okay. I'll bet Yoda to close the space off, and I'll put this in a reply to the space. I'll bet Yoda that it's not going to happen by Q2 2025. I think it'll take until the end of 2025.
Another cup of coffee for.
Have you won one yet? I don't know. You're behind a little, I think.
I'm so caffeinated at this point. I'm not taking
okay.
any.
All right. All right, I'm going to put that in a reply, and we're going to leave it there today. Thank you very much, everybody. I will chat with you tomorrow. Take care.